Kevin, first and foremost, if you had asked Canadians a few months ago who would win the country's next general election, most would have predicted a decisive victory for the Conservative Party. That outcome does not look so certain now. The Liberals are closing the gap. Your thoughts?
No, obviously, when you get closer to the election itself, in almost any contest, it gets very tight. I think what's going to happen now is Carney, in a very short period of time, is going to try and distance himself from Trudeau, while Pierre makes sure that everybody realizes it's Trudeau 2.0. More carbon tax, more green agenda. He's going to paint him with that brush, and that's going to be the fight. As far as negotiating NAFTA, if you want to call it NAFTA 3, yesterday at around this time, Howard Lutnick said, look, I know we have a new prime minister, but we also know that there's going to be an election called in 3 weeks. And so in terms of negotiating the pan-Canadian deal, which is effectively NAFTA 3, we're going to wait until the country chooses a new leader. And so Ford is down here today with his staffers. They're trying to turn the heat down. Lutnick talked about lowering the rhetoric because obviously he doesn't want this cutoff of electricity happening. And so we're in limbo, but we're closing in on a time when we won't be. The idiot king is gone, and that's important, very important. And just to show you how bad it was for their party, Freeland got less than double digits. So she was tossed out under the bus by her own party. That's extraordinary. And they basically hired someone who's never gone through a leadership contest at all. Someone off the street, his name is Carney, and everybody hopes they know him. At least people know him internationally. I'm not sure Canadians know him that well, but he is backed by Gerald Butts, who is the Antichrist of Canada. Everybody knows that. And Trudeau's old chief of staff, who is, I just don't have any words for her. She's horrific. And so I think it's going to be very important to make sure that he gets painted as Trudeau on steroids. And so that's how he'll lose. It'll be tight, but I think he's going to lose. And it's unfortunate because I would have much preferred Freeland. It would have been an easier contest. And you're right, the polls are closing. But I think Freeland deserves to be in purgatory after what you did to the country, because being in a opposition in a parliamentary system, including Canada or England's, when you are facing a majority mandate, which I think will happen with the Conservatives, that is the definition of hell on earth. And I wish that for her.
Yeah. Back to the Conservatives winning, I would have said that, Kevin. And I just came back from Toronto. And you can feel the pendulum has swung. That I think Canadians now see a vote for Poilievre is a vote for Donald Trump. And Mark Carney's speech the other day, Canadians see him as polished. He's a statesman. He says all the right things. Canada will never be America. So it looks like Poilievre will have a big fight.
I think it'll be a tight election, but I think it will be, you watch what's going to happen in the rhetoric. Remember, this happened in the United States as well. The spread was less than 200 basis points.
Yeah.
And yet Trump won a sweep of all 7 swing states. And I kind of anticipate the same thing in Canada. The key to make sure, and I'll be working hard on it along with others, is to paint Carney in the paint that he is, the color he is. He is Trudeau 2.0. There's no question about it. His policies will be bone crushing for Canada. He's doubling down on carbon tax, shifting it away from the consumer and killing business. His policies of regulating infrastructure investment, same thing. When you have Gerald Butts involved, who is hell-bent on changing Canada into a green utopia, you know that we'll continue to decline in the G7. We are already at the bottom. We can't get worse, but if we elect Carney, we could probably do better than just losing 41% of the dollar. We could lose 50, 60% of the value of the dollar. And that's the key, to paint him for what he is. He's dangerous, he's risky, and he's Trudeau all over again.
Yeah. Let's get in the mind of Donald Trump a second. He knows that this is playing to the Liberals' favor. Does he want the Liberals in power? Is it to his advantage to keep Canada as a punching bag?
Trudeau disliked Trump. Trump disliked Trudeau. And, you know, most Americans actually think that a new prime minister has been elected and his name is Mark Carney. So they don't understand the parliamentary system. They don't know that there's an election coming. Ludwig just figured that out yesterday. It's not on the top of the agenda right now. Canada is not right now in the focus of the administration in the US. It's been parked aside now because they're going to wait for the election. But there's so many other issues. Ukraine, for example, tariffs being negotiated now with Ireland. The prime minister was here yesterday. He's still here today. The same thing with India. All the tariff schedules around sugar and other things being negotiated. There's a reset going on trade. Canada's just one situation. Trump can't stop with the let's buy Canada and make the 51st state. That's just his nature, but you've got to differentiate the signal from the noise. Yesterday, for the first time in the Living interview around 10 o'clock, he started the narrative about the economic union for the first time. So, you know, for those of us focusing on the signal, not the noise, some interesting things are starting to happen. But the next stop on the journey into the negotiations with the US is the Canadian election. I hope it gets called in the next 2 weeks. I hope after 6 weeks there's a sweep of the Conservatives, because I think there is you know, in all fairness to Carney, he has the baggage of a party that destroyed the country over 10 years. And there's a lot of people who just want change for the sake of change's sake. He's not a bad guy. It's just the policies he represents and the brand liberal is tainted meat. And that happens in politics. It just happens. And, you know, what can you do? Now, it would be a remarkable thing if he could convince Canadians, look, I'm not Trudeau 2.0. Yeah, I ran the Bank of England. Yeah, I'm not an elitist from Davos. And yeah, I don't care about climate change if it's going to affect your life. And no, I'm not going to put any carbon taxes on anybody because I know we got to be competitive with the United States. That's not going to happen, though. He's going to try and string that thread or thread that needle, and I think he'll fail. I also don't find him, look, great. I don't want to bash him. Just I know the guy. I mean, I think he's an okay guy, and I know some of his family. I just hate his policies, and so my job is to make sure that we focus on policy, not individual. I've never shilled for politicians. I always shill for policy. But in Carney's case, it's important to realize it's just more Trudeau. He may not be as an empty suit as much as Trudeau was, but he is Trudeau 2.0, and he's dangerous.
Going back to your point about separating signal from noise, there is a fear that Trump is serious about annexing Canada. You don't buy it?
No, I don't buy it. You know, unfortunately, I know the guy, or fortunately, I know the guy, depending on which side of the fence you're on. Yeah. He's bombastic. He's outrageous. He says stuff without a filter, and he does it every day, over and over and over again. You've watched the whipsawing of the policy in Canada in the last 48 hours, and it's a remarkable situation. But it's the hangover effect of how much he hated Trudeau, and he really, really disliked Freeland. I mean, if Carney puts her in the cabinet, that would be bad for Canada. She needs to take a break. She needs to go back and do whatever she did before politics. And I have no idea what that was, because she certainly wasn't involved in finance. She was the worst finance minister the country's ever had, combined with the idiot king. It was a powerful cocktail of destruction.